Today in the shop, our project is to install the carbon fiber inserts that we made on a previous video, buff out the paint, get it wet sanded, make sure it fits exactly the way we want. And actually the day turned out to be a day we could have gone for a ride, but we had a lot of family things to do. Now today the goal is to finish up the little inserts. They're ready to buff out, get them installed, and maybe even get a couple of more pictures taken if the rain doesn't come. There was a 50-50 chance of rain, and I don't know how that's going to play out, but we need a couple hours to get these parts epoxied in, get them buffed out, and get them installed back on the bike. And that's the goal of the day. Now I know this is a relatively small detail I've been working on. I have a couple other little details to work on also, but the idea is I'm doing them one at a time and then taking pictures, looking down at the computer to see what I want to do next. And so far, that system has resulted in a pretty nice motorcycle, I think. So the first step is going to be to get the foot pegs off. In this case, this side, I have to take the master cylinder off also. And as you can imagine, these parts are Loctited in, anything that's safety related. Yeah, these parts are blue Loctited in, so well, I understand why. Safety first, they don't have the foot pegs come off the back of the bike. And a little brake reservoir is attached to the back foot peg, of course, that has to come off. I don't want to dump any of the brake fluid out, so I'm going to carefully put this. Now with this part loose, I didn't want to have it that would turn over and we'd possibly have a problem with the brake fluid on the bike. Just being careful. Okay, so once I get this out, and the other side, there's 4 bolts, hold those on, and we can take it downstairs, buff out the parts, and epoxy those little inserts in. And I understand all this blue Loctite they put on the bike. That's really a good thing, actually. And only a little bit of a new, we'll make sure we put blue Loctite on these bolts when they go back in, too. Okay, I want to capture that bolt. And we'll do the other side. That's side one, relatively easy. The other side doesn't have the reservoir on it. Taking the parts off the bike, relatively simple and straightforward. And I always think, even the simplest job, there's always something you can do to make it easier. And it's just my habit, I always leave the parts in the order I take them off, and with the tools I need, and some Loctite to remind me to put the Loctite on. We're ready to go down the cellar and work on these parts. Now one quick thing, they make little block off plates if you don't want to have the back foot pegs on, but you know, I don't know, when I looked at it, and I looked at this on the computer, we actually looked at it several times, because I know a lot of people just take the back foot pegs off, but there's something looks wrong on the back of the bike. I don't know what it is, I don't need to know, but I know I like it. The way this has evolved with other modifications, and the scoops, the screening, and all the little covers, well, this is just going to add to that. And that the golden rule for this bike has been everything you make that's blue, you add blue, and I like the bike better. But it's all subjective anyway. And for people that do such things, they do make a bracket. You can buy an aftermarket bracket, but obviously we could put that up there if we wanted to have no back foot pegs. But when I look at it, I don't know, it just doesn't look like an MT09. It makes it look maybe like something else, but I think I like it better with the foot pegs. Come on, boys. First feeding of the year. First feeding of the year. There you go. There you go. Time to eat. This actually is the first time this year that the fish are feeding. They've come out of hibernation for sure. Well, the first thing is we want to buff out the paint. Get that as nice and shiny as could be, and then get those parts epoxied in place. So we'll get some soapy water, some 2000 grit in Dasa. It's called Rhino Wet. It's the red line, and this is the sandpaper of choice when you want to sand something and buff it out. Now, anytime I've sprayed any of that clear, any brand of the clear, the 2000 grit and 8065, make short work of getting it buffed out. Now this part has a little bit of a curve in it, and I'm hoping when we laminate it in there, it's going to go in without any drama. But I left the little pieces where the epoxy is going to go. I left them taped right to the last minute. And then because I already have the sanding scratches I want on them, and I don't want them to be buffed out. It was kind of an important thing to leave the tape on the edges there because I didn't want to get any additional paint or any polish or anything on there. I wanted a better clean surface to glue onto. Okay, the parts are totally flat sanded now with 2000 grit and ready for the polish. And this is the Force CR 8065. I've always had really good luck with this. It's probably not a lot better than any of the other modern polishes. They're all very good, but this is the one that I've been comfortable with. It's kind of the devil, I know. And it's excellent for little parts like this you want to buff out by hand. Now, there's certainly a lot of good polishes in the world today, and I wouldn't speculate that there are better polishes or there's other brands or whatever, but again, this is the devil, I know. And this is a small part. I haven't taken a tape off yet, so what I always like to do is, if it's at all practical, do one part in real time, just to show how much time we're talking about. Whether you're buffing a part that's on a motorcycle or off the motorcycle or a model plane, it really doesn't matter. And this material, one of the little characteristics it has that I like, it doesn't seem like it doesn't matter what clear I've used. This material seems to buff it up really relatively quickly. Now, when I get this buffed up, then I'm going to pull all the masking off. And hopefully I haven't gotten any wax or any, I don't know if this even has silicone in it, anything down on those areas that I'm going to use to make the epoxy joint. So that's the reason for leaving the tape on. And what I'll do is I'll run a razor blade down that edge just to make sure I get a nice, quick, clean edge. I don't want to take any chances and have an edge that will be very difficult to deal with. So I can see already the paint is coming right up. A matter of a few minutes. And again, I always like to do one in real time. The next thing is just to pull the back masking off and get these just rough fit in place. Now, I was really careful not to contaminate that area under the tape or pull up any unnecessary paint, because that's going to be a very thin surface to put epoxy on to get these to stick, and I wanted to have it, the surface was already etched before I painted it. I wanted to keep that etch on the final part. So now we've left the part that we've already etched. That's going to be where the glue joint is. So we'll be going, I don't want to attach to the paint. I want it to attach to the carbon fiber part there. In the back of this, we took off all the back masking and roughened it up. We'll put a coat of flat black on that when we're done, just so it isn't obvious. It's shinier than all the stuff around it that's under the seat. Now the area where this is actually going to attach, I'm just roughening it up. I'm making sure it's clean. I'd like to have the best bond possible, because we only have two little thin areas we can bond to. And so the little areas that match up to this, they're going to match up there. We're going to have to babysit it while the epoxy dries. It's got the right curve in it. And I'm going to have to be careful no epoxy bleeds off on here. If it is, I got to get it with alcohol and a Q-tip. And this is the epoxy we're going to use. It's a 5-minute dry. And what I'm going to do is just hold the part in place 5 minutes and sing a tune or something to make the time go by until that part is held in place. I don't want to take a chance it'll shift or move or dry crooked. I call that babysitting. So 5-minute epoxy doesn't mean in 5 minutes you can go take a ride. And what'll help, what always helps, is right now when you're mixing the epoxy, make sure it's mixed thoroughly, butter up both sides. If you have a hair dryer, warm it just slightly. Don't use a heat gun, use a hair dryer. That'll let it kick off in probably 5-minute epoxy. Usually gets to where you can let the part go in 10 minutes. under normal conditions. And it's still a little chilly down in the shop. I wanted to be careful not to get fingerprints all over everything, and I can't do this kind of work with gloves on. It just makes, you get it on the gloves and it's everywhere. Now, what I had to do right here, and this is in fast forward, taking Q-tips and wiping up, get all the little, anything that drips out, and that is not as easy as it seems. It takes a lot of effort to get it a nice joint. So the epoxy's dry. The next step is to just go out and mount them on a motorcycle and see if we like them, and if it's appropriate, get a couple of pictures. Now, I don't know if you agree that bike, there just looks something wrong there at that piece. There's something belongs there. But for now, we're going to leave the foot pegs on and have this little accessory that I think is going to just be one more additional small detail for the bike. Now, I was thinking if we ever get sick and tired of the look of the foot peg, I could make a carbon fiber part for back here. Just a thought. But I do think without the foot peg, something looks wrong. I don't know what. And I've seen other MT09s with the foot pegs off and with the little plate, and well, you know, it's a subjective thing, so you can't really say. Anyway, I did not forget to put on the Loctite. And we'll get out the torque wrench and make sure these are torqued down to factory spec. Ah! Boy, I like the way that looks. Wow. One more little detail, just one more little detail. And every time I add something blue, especially if it used to be flat black, I like it even more. All small details. And this all goes back together, of course, relatively easily. There's really no big deal about it. It's all Loctited up. And we will be ready to shoot some pictures. Now, the way they designed this, it holds the cap from coming off. It's a nice safety feature, but a little tricky if you're putting it on for the first time. I guess they want you to take this bolt, one bolt out. They don't want that cap coming off, I guess. I don't know. Safety feature. Well, we're down to about five or six little jobs I still want to do, each one-day jobs. And I will declare success. But this was a good one, relatively easy. And I think in a unique way, it just makes the bike a little more unique, a little different, without making it look like something too radical. And we do have time to shoot a few pictures. Now, what I've tried to make a habit of doing anytime the weather is appropriate, and catch the sun early morning, midday, and in the evening, and shoot a few pictures and take them down by my computer where I can look at things under different lighting conditions, different shadows, and just get some more ideas for things for the future. Because all of the motorcycle projects I work on all the bikes, they're ongoing. The bikes are never finished. They're always a work in progress. And in this case, we want to have evil twin parts for when it comes time. We want to evil twin the bike out a little bit, because without question, we're going to get to the point with the bike where we want to have a different look, maybe for next year or the year after or whenever. And no matter what and how you enjoy motorcycling, the evil twin part is part of what I enjoy. Having different wheels, having different parts that you can take on and off in a hurry. And in this case, an MT09, the reason it's worth doing for me is a bike suits my riding needs to a T. Now, it wouldn't suit somebody's needs if they're doing long distance touring, or if you're doing track days every day of your life. Well, but this bike, I always think the advantage is it's a true street bike. Street bike being, and Jose said it right, you go out the driveway and you're having fun. And that's the bottom line. The bottom line of all motorcycling is, if you're not having fun working on it, you're not having fun riding it, well, I don't know about it. Maybe you need a bigger golf clubs. Now, for me too, I like to work on my, number one, my photography skills. I really like to put the effort in and try to make the pictures that I use on my videos as nice as possible. I like to be able to shoot the video under different lighting conditions, different under trees, around, out in the open sun. And that can be challenging. There's a lot more to it when you really want to have nice pictures. And video it's a world of its own, getting the video to be nice and high def. And in my case, because I play all my videos on a widescreen TV, which I assume a lot of people do, and a lot of people use a phone, but whenever I've looked at these videos on my phone, I get, well, but on a big screen TV, they are really nice. So whatever that information is worth. But anyway, the whole objective of the channel is to pass on useful information that makes riding and owning and working on motorcycles fun, and to hang out with the friends we hang around with and share stories, and maybe tell a few lies in between or whatever. I guess that's part of life itself. I love the way the wheels came out. Oh, and every time I do a photo shoot, I see something else about the bike. The windshield was worth waiting, worth making all those brackets so it laid down at the right angle. And every one of these little inserts and covers and things, I think at the end of this project is so worthwhile. So one more little detail part, a small part, but every one of the little parts adds up. Every one. And I found that to be true every step of the way with this little modification that we've made, trying to make the bike unique. And I think to a certain degree, it's worked. But in the end, the whole reason for doing everything we do is to ride these bikes and ride the wheels off them. No matter what you do, whether you buy a new bike or restore an old one, the whole idea for me is the riding. And all of the things I do are to support that riding effort. And having a garage full of bikes, I like to ride a different bike from time to time. I like the experience of riding older bikes with my friends who have older bikes. I like riding new bikes, and I love the Mt09, of course. That suits me just perfectly. I like having an R1, so if you want to scare yourself a little more than normal, that's great. And I just love the idea that you can wake up in the morning and go out to the garage and pick a bike out to ride and say, I just hope today is just going to be a bright, sunny day to ride. And thanks so much for watching.